So Sadiq Khan is being accused of suspending democracy by City Hall Tories, saying that during the coronavirus crisis he has refused to meet the London Assembly for over 6 weeks. And that, my friends, is unacceptable. We went to the office of Sadiq Khan just before we talked to Susan Hall and asked if he would appear on the show to answer the charges that she is making. And of course, you will not be surprised to know that he's declined our very generous offer. But he has said this. A spokesperson for Sadiq Khan has said, "This national emergency is the wrong time for this kind of petty party politics for the Conservative Party. They know full well that the only reason the Mayor hasn't appeared in front of the London Assembly since the 19th of March is because they didn't ask him to." Sadiq has asked his Deputy Mayor for Fire and Resilience, Fiona Twycross, to attend the Assembly's Oversight Committee this week to answer questions on his behalf because he's exceptionally busy working with the government to prepare London for the easing of lockdown. Sadiq will be in front of the London Assembly to answer their questions as usual at Mayor's Question Time in 2 weeks' time. Well, Susan Hall is on the line, so let's ask her if he's correct. Is it right, Susan, that you didn't ask him?
No, absolutely not. I'm curious to hear that.
Yeah, I wondered about that because it's a rather stupid statement to make if it's not true.
Well, it is stupid. It's stupid and incorrect. We actually said to him we want what we call an oversight meeting to start asking questions. We said to him, any time, whatever day suited him, whatever time suited him, we would fit in.
Right.
So, he just didn't want to do it. I'm absolutely furious by that. It is incorrect.
Right. Well, thank you for correcting it. I mean, surprisingly enough, he refused once again. I don't know how many times we've asked him to come on this show, but I think it's now in sort of double figures, and he just never, ever wants to appear here. But he's more than happy to appear in other places where he gets a slightly easier time. But what is he being so busy about? It says he's exceptionally busy working with the government to prepare London for the easing of lockdown. Well, that's news to me.
Oh, it's rubbish. He's present but not involved, quite frankly.
Right.
The thing that makes me so mad, he's got the best job, in my view, in the country. And leaders lead from the front. Mayors are certainly supposed to lead from the front. He's absent whenever there's an issue. Everything is somebody else's fault. He's not transparent. In his first speech that he made, he said, "I am determined to lead the most transparent, engaged and accessible administration London has ever seen." Well, it couldn't be more at odds with that, quite frankly.
Yes.
6 weeks. All we want to do, we want to ask him why are London's key workers still having to travel on overcrowded trains? Why had so many transport staff lost their lives? I mean, there are so many questions on things that he is responsible for, and yet he won't stand up and be counted. If he's not prepared to be a mayor that will answer questions, then he should stand aside, quite frankly. He's a disgrace.
Well, he really is. And then when you think about it, I know that there are many people listening to this show who are not actually in London, but this is quite a big, important issue in London. The safety of train drivers, of Transport for London staff, of bus drivers, the ability of taxi drivers to come back to work and start driving around the capital again. All of these things which are both medically important but also financially important need to be sorted out. And he doesn't seem to be in any great hurry to do that.
No, he doesn't. He's hiding like a chicken. I mean, I'm disgusted by him, quite frankly. He's a coward. He won't come and answer questions. I mean, if you look at somebody like Matt Hancock, for instance,
yes,
he's been on the television constantly. He's answering questions from MPs, journalists, the public. He does his best. He's on the radio or the television first thing in the morning.
He's working all hours, isn't he, Matt?
Yes, he is. And this has gone on for 6 weeks he has had no break at all. And I think he's had the virus in between. And he has carried on working. With Khan, he'll go on to shows where they sort of fawn over him. But anybody that will ask him a serious question, like you would, he won't engage.
No.
This isn't what we need from a mayor, especially a mayor of London, for goodness sake.
Exactly right. Now, is he being held to ransom by the unions here as well on the kind of the Transport for London front? Because they seem to be holding all the purse strings here, or certainly pulling his strings about the return to normality on the tubes.
Well, don't they just? But wouldn't it be nice for us to have the opportunity to ask him?
Yes. Well, quite. But, I mean, what's your view of what should happen in terms of the way that any return to work? Because there's no doubt in my mind that come this weekend there will be some conversations going on at government level about, either an ending of the furlough system or an opening of certain sectors of the economy, which will include meaning more people going to work. So we want to make sure that if people are going to work, they can get there safely and get home safely.
Well, we do. I mean, he's been calling for masks to be worn on the underground, and yet hasn't supplied his own staff with them, which is a disgrace. If he thinks they're going to make such a difference, why on earth hasn't he supplied them for his staff? Perhaps that will come in. I obviously don't know what's going to be brought in. There are numerous workers in London that can still work from home, so that should reduce numbers. But we need to make these, the underground and that safe, because that's so many of our key workers, NHS workers, are using these trains all the time, and they're such a reduced service that people are being crowded in, which clearly isn't safe.
No, of course.
And we need to know what he's doing, and of course he won't come and answer any questions. He's an absent mayor. It's disgraceful.
And what about this Deputy Mayor for Fire and Resilience, Fiona Twycross? There's a meeting this week, supposedly, of the Assembly's Oversight Committee. Will you be at that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Fiona Twycross, good woman. She's doing her best. But at the end of the day, she's a deputy mayor, and the man that is responsible for London, and he's quite happy when things are going well. He'll take all the credit. But if anything goes wrong, it's somebody else's fault. He needs to come in front of us. He needs to answer the questions.
Yes, exactly right. And I mean, he seems to find the time to tweet out quite a bit. I dare say he's got an entire social media team that does that for him. But, he's very active on Twitter. I only wish he was as active in real life.
Oh, well, he won't be doing that. He's got so many PR people. I mean, he's got loads of PR people in City Hall. Goodness knows what he's doing with his time. I was talking to the Mayor of Tehran, as we discussed last week.
Right.
He's happy to talk to people like that. But he's just not happy to answer questions that he might not like.
Well, here's his latest advice, right? This is from his Twitter account from 2 hours ago. Londoners must work from home where possible to protect key workers who need to travel. If you have to go to work, don't travel at rush hour. Well, that's great. What if you have to travel at rush hour because that's when people travel? Keep public transport safe for those who genuinely need to use it. And as you say, he's not even supplying masks for the people who work there.
Well, that's right. Also, reducing the amount of trains out there does not help with overcrowding.
No.
And it's been like that from the beginning. And our poor NHS workers have to go in when their shift starts. They have to use the trains to get into London. Many of them haven't got cars or the ability to get in any other way.
Right. And he's also said in one of his other tweets that he's put out in the last 24 hours, London's road to recovery cannot be clogged with cars. It has to be one Londoners can walk and cycle down. Well, that's also great, isn't it? What if you're a van driver who's a delivery man who has to have things in the back of the van?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to understand any of this. He really hasn't got a clue. He is a hopeless mayor, a hopeless absent mayor who hasn't got the balls to answer any questions that we may put to him, because they might not be very friendly questions.
Yeah. Now, in 2 weeks' time, he claims he's going to be back. He's going to be at the front of the London Assembly at Mayor's Question Time. What will be your first question to him?
I'm not telling you. I don't know. It depends what's going on at the time. Believe you me, we will all have good questions for him. Every one of the Conservatives, and to be fair, the Labour group will be asking him questions as well.
Yes.
He needs to be accountable, and at the moment he's an absent mayor. Not good enough when we've got an emergency on.
No, it really is not good enough. Susan, well, good luck with it, and thank you for your time, and thank you for always being available to come onto our show when we wish to talk to you. Not because we give you an easy time, not because we're on your side, but because you are quite rightly questioning the veracity of what Sadiq Khan says, and what he does, what he claims to do, what he says he's doing. He reckons that he's busy working with the government to ease the lockdown in London. Well, that's come as a great piece of news to the government. I haven't seen any pictures of Sadiq Khan going in and out of Downing Street unless he's going back in through the back door, smuggling himself in because he doesn't want to be seen going in there. I don't see him working with the government at all. And I think, Sadiq Khan, for you to send me a statement which has been described as a lie by Susan Hall, who is from the Tory party in the London Assembly, is quite frankly not good enough. You are paid by the taxpayer, including me. I'm a Londoner. I live in London. You represent me. You should do the decent thing and come on this radio show and stop hiding, because we'll find you eventually and you won't enjoy it. This is Talk Radio.